Hey everybody, welcome to Creed Saturday Morning, Episode 6. I'm Creed. Today what I want to do is I want to start to recap some of my cartoon villains that I've already done over on DeviantArt, but I haven't put up here. Now I don't have videos of making them, but I do have the pencils and the finished pieces. So we're going to go through the first 10 today. Now the very first one I drew in October 2012 was Scarab from Bionic Six. Bionic Six ran for 65 episodes in 1987. Scarab is obsessed with immortality and world domination. So he's trying to take over the world and get hold of bionic technology from the Bionic Six. His real name is Dr. Wilmer Sharp, and his eyepiece has a beam and a scanner in it, and also he has super strength. His voice was done by an actor named Jim McGeorge, and the show was made by TMS Entertainment that also made Visionaries. Now I went a little bit off character on this one. He is a little bit distorted, but he does definitely look like him, and I decided to put some blood splatter on him just to make him a little more sinister. The whole reason I made this giant cartoon villains gallery is because I liked how this first one came out. So this one's 4 years old and still looks great to me. And Bionic Six is a great cartoon in case you haven't seen it. I'm going to put links to the intros of all these shows in the description. Now the second one I did is Tex Hex from Bravestarr. And Bravestarr ran 65 episodes in 1987-1988 and was made by Filmation. And Tex Hex was actually created for Ghostbusters, not the Real Ghostbusters, the Filmation Ghostbusters. But Lou Scheimer, who owned the company, took him out and had a show made just around him because he liked how he looked. The show is set in the 23rd century on the desert planet of New Texas. And Tex Hex discovered Kyrium, which is why the settlement is there in the first place. Tex Hex's voice was done by Charlie Adler, who also voiced Roddy Piper on Rockin' Wrestling and Buster Bunny in Tiny Toons. This is one of the very, very few Western things you'll ever see in my art. There are probably less than 5 Western things I like in the world. I'm not a giant Western fan at all. And it usually annoys me when they mix tech and Western, but this show actually works. I really like it, and I shouldn't, but I do. It's a great show. So next up, I drew Krang from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I decided to give Krang a really gnarled, bumpy, alien kind of look. And I think that worked really, really well in this piece. I had a lot of positive comments on this over time. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles ran for 193 episodes from 1987 to 1996. And Krang is an evil mastermind brain creature from Dimension X. He was voiced by Pat Fraley, who also voiced Baxter Stockman, and a lot of Filmation characters. Now the next cartoon villain in my gallery is the evil midnight bomber What Bombs at Midnight from The Tick. Absolutely my favorite Tick villain. He only appeared in one episode, but he's so crazy, you just gotta love the guy. The Tick ran for 36 episodes in 1994 to 1996. Now this guy is really mentally disturbed and obsessed with explosives. He's voiced by Maurice LaMarche, who also did, let's see, Egon from Real Ghostbusters, Mr. Wilson and Dennis's dad from Dennis the Menace, Serpentor and Destro, among others, from G.I. Joe, Dizzy, Taz, and Yosemite Sam on Tiny Toons, and of course, Brain from Pinky and the Brain. The Tick has a really great cast of characters, and I plan to draw a lot more from that show. Now the next guy I did is a Halloween piece I did. That year I had a migraine on Halloween, which I separate my year 364 and Halloween. And the 364 is not the important part. So all year I wait and plan for Halloween, and I usually go way overboard on the makeup, and sometimes I get prosthetics, and people usually wait to see what I'm going to do on Halloween. But that year I couldn't really celebrate that day, so what I decided to do was at least I wanted to draw a Halloween piece of art. So I decided to do Samhain from the Real Ghostbusters, who's the ghost of Halloween, and one of the few recurring villains. He can manipulate time and controls other ghosts. And he was voiced by Bill Martin, who also took over the voice of Shredder after James Avery left Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I really love how this turned out. It's one of my favorite Halloween-based pieces. The next guy I did is a little obscure, but I think he's really cool. It's Horrg from the Monchichis. That was a Hanna-Barbera cartoon. It only ran 13 episodes. It was based on toys. And it wasn't really a bad show. It was about the quality of, Smurfs or Snorks or whatever. Horrg was the leader of the Grumplins of Grumplore. He was voiced by Sidney Miller, who also voiced Dungeon Master from Dungeons & Dragons. My next guy is a classic villain, who everybody should recognize, Simon Bar Sinister from Underdog. Underdog ran 124 episodes from 1964 to 1973. Now, Simon Bar Sinister, he's a mad scientist, and his assistant's name is Cad Lackey, actually, which I always found funny. He's voiced by Alan Swift, who also voiced Riff Raff on the show, and he also did narration on Tennessee Tuxedo. Next up is Metlar from the Inhumanoids. And the Inhumanoids ran 13 episodes in 1986. Metlar is from the Earth's core, and he leads the Inhumanoids against humanity. He can spit lava balls, and his weakness is magnetic fields. He was voiced by Ed Gilbert, who also voiced 3030 on Bravestarr and Baloo on Tailspin. Now next up is a really 80s character. I really love this guy. It's Mezmaron from Pac-Man. Now Pac-Man was a Hanna-Barbera cartoon, ran 44 episodes from 1982 to 1983. He's always trying to get the Power Pellet Forest so he can control the whole place. And he's the boss of the ghosts Inky, Blinky, Pinky, Clyde, and Sue. And he's voiced by Alan Lurie. What's strange about it is the Pac-Man, if you can call it a franchise, because there are current cartoons which I don't watch. The only cartoon to watch is that 80s one. But that's the only one with Mezmaron. And it was kind of strange that he was person-sized and everybody else was Pac-Man characters. It was just interesting. But yeah, you can't beat Mezmaron. He rolled. And then last but not least is KOMPLEX from Bucky O'Hare and the Toad Wars. Now, Bucky O'Hare ran 13 episodes in 1991. The character is voiced by Long John Baldry, who was a singer, also known to do the voice of Dr. Robotnik on The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, KOMPLEX controls the Toad planet. The Toads actually built him so they wouldn't have to do a lot of things. Get AI to run the planet and we'll all live in a paradise. But the AI decided to start a war and use mind control on all the Toads with Toad TV. So they're all brainwashed minions of KOMPLEX now, and he turned their planet just into a big war machine. It's a really great cartoon, and I've actually done other pieces from the show. So those are my first 10 villains. The pencils are also there. A few of them are rough, and a few of them I've made some changes when I did the inking, especially Tex Hex. I altered that quite a bit. But overall, I'm very happy with those 10, and I didn't know at the time I'd be closing in on 100 at some point. But I just really love doing these, and once I started, I could always pick another show and find a cool guy to draw. So those are my first 10, and there will be more. I hope you enjoyed this little trip through my cartoon villains gallery, and make sure to come back and check out what I do next time. Thanks for stopping by and checking out my art. Here's a couple of suggestions of other videos you might want to watch. The subscription link is there if you need it. I'd appreciate a thumbs up or a thumbs down depending on how you feel. So until next time, take her easy.